Hello, everybody. It's the weekend. That means it's party time for crypto and Bitcoin. Let's go. You guys and gals, thank you all for being here. Thank you to mods in the chat and everybody else. My predictions have been pretty good so far, and people keep asking me for more. So not only am I going to give you one today, I'm actually going to give you two, and I'm going to back them up with a truckload of mathematics and history too. So let's jump in. Thank you all for the likes. These are very important times for us to be alive. I've been stressing this now for a year and a half. We are still early. All right. So there's people out there saying you should sell and take profits. It's like, no. I don't give financial advice, but it's too early to bloody sell. Wait till you see this. Thank you everybody for coming. So it is Saturday and crypto markets $2.6 trillion. Volume 108, a little lower than last time I said this. Bitcoin 68.5 as we speak. Ethereum just shy of 4,000. Fear and greed 84. Not as high as 90 or 91 the other day, but it's still bonkers. Time to go. This story is called 99K in 40 days or 39 days, depending on where you are in the world, and we'll see if it's even possible. But I have an even more bonkers prediction after that. That's just the amuse-bouche, the teaser for the French out there. And a big thank you to everyone on Patreon for making a lot of this content possible 7 days a week. Let's talk about this as well. There's a dedicated Bitcoin playlist, which will be up here. I'll probably forget to add it, but just check out my playlist. You'll see it. I'm on my own at the weekends. And expat, thank you as well for coming. So let's talk 39 days. It's coming in hard and fast. Wow, 39 days will be over before you know it. And this video today is about the 39 days that are left and what's going to happen over those 39 days. Let's look at this. This is from James Van Straten as well. He has this new chart from Glassnode, and it has new spot data metrics for all exchanges. And we can see spot buying versus selling for Bitcoin. And if you zoom in on Coinbase, Brian Armstrong tells us he's seeing a lot of traffic. That's why the system coincidentally shuts down all the time, but that's a separate issue. But in USD terms, yes, this is the highest spot volume ever recorded on Coinbase. The right image, okay? Retail is back. And in Bitcoin terms, it is pretty substandard left image, all right? And that was about 2 billion traded yesterday. So what this basically means is because the Bitcoin price is nearly $70,000, you're not seeing a lot of coins, but in dollar volume, it's the biggest ever. That's what matters. So let's also look at this. The sell side is muted compared to 2021. If you look at the cumulative volume in red, it is not nowhere near as bad as it used to be back in the old days. So the good news is people are buying. People are buying a lot. FOMO times are here. Retail literally just snuck in the door this week, and now they're buying and they're not selling. And the balances on exchanges is depleting fast, as I've been saying for a long time too. Now, first prediction I'm going to break down, and the inspiration for this comes from Thomas Farrer. And he basically talks about 99,000 is very achievable by halving based on data. And I'm going to break that data down. You can look at the chart, you can look at the trajectory, etc. Check him out on Twitter. But breaking it down in his logic, just so people can see, there's been 182,000 Bitcoin of net inflows so far year to date. This indicates that the year to date, there has been a net inflow into these ETFs of nearly 200,000 Bitcoin. Now, 120,000 Bitcoin in the last 30 days. That shows that in the past 30 days, 120,000 is gone into these black holes just in 30 days. And we are on pace for 300,000 of inflows into the ETFs by halving day, which is 39 days from now. And this is going to be crazy. So if you look at this, the recent 120,000 of inflows drove a 45% price surge in Bitcoin. And the point is correlating to the recent flows that I just mentioned. Now, if we have a constant pace, we will be at $99,000 Bitcoin by halving day, assuming the steady inflow rate of what we've had over the previous 30 days. Thank you, Doc Intern, for coming, as well as Adam Q. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much. Is that possible? Well, it's possible and a lot more. I will break it all down. This is everybody's now talking about amplifiers and multipliers. I'm happy to say I was the first person to talk about an amplifier when Tesla was purchased. When Bitcoin was purchased by Tesla. Okay. And back then I calculated a 21 multiplier based on a 15 million Bitcoin supply, because 4 million are lost at least back then. This is 2021. But here, this is from DotKrueger, and I reformatted a bit so it's a little clearer. But he looks at the fund inflows going back to November, December, January, February, March. And remember, March just began. There's already 30,000 in there. And the Bitcoin price, you can see it's gone from 41,000 up to 60. It's technically a 69,000 right now, but we'll leave that. This is his table, not mine. But the key is he calculated based on fund inflows, starting price, ending price, market cap delta, and the amount of funds it takes to get there, and he gets a 73.6 multiplier. Now, last time I did my Bitcoin multiplier pre-halving, it was 59. Now, per this math, it's 73.6, and I checked it, and it's correct. So, let's do some more math. Another table I have here. This is the average. Okay, I've got all the history of every single ETF day by every single fund, all mapped out. I do it every single day for you, so you don't have to. Now, when you calculate the average inflow, net of Grayscale, and Grayscale will be gone soon. Don't worry about that. You get an average of $502.3 million a day. Again, excluding GBTC. So what happens? What happens when you take this out and push it forward? Jeff Hammer and Teddy and Daryl and everybody, you're overwhelming me. It's too much. But just take this $500 million a day into these ETFs. Let's extrapolate it forward as to what could happen if we have this multiplier. And things get a bit crazy as well. Hello, Jimmy. Now, again, to break this out, 502 million a day. And I'm going to assume we get a quarter of that, we get a half of that, we get 75% of it, or 100%. And what would the price be after the halving of Bitcoin? Assuming 252 trading days in the year and that multiplier from DotKrueger of 73.6, things get crazy. So imagine we just go to not 502 million a day, which is what we've had over the last 40 trading days. By the way, this ETF trading day 40 just ended yesterday. 40 days only. And the momentum is climbing. And more money is coming. More ETFs are coming. More funds are allocating. The world is waking up to this thing real fast. I'll get onto that in a minute. We'll talk about the money as well. But if we take that amount, just a quarter, which is 125.5 million a day, and you multiply by the multiplier 73.6, you get 9.24 billion. And you multiply that by trading days, that's you get a total amount. You divide that by the number of Bitcoin. You get an addition in price of 155,261. On top of the current price, that'll take it to $25,000 a Bitcoin 1 year from now. And that is assuming we just get a quarter of the flow into this, which is not going to happen. It's going to be higher than that. Way higher. I promise you that. Because there's more money coming, more funds allocating, more ETFs coming, more retail FOMO. It's all happening at the same time. It's like a perfect storm. You couldn't build a better cocktail, ladies and gentlemen. That's the weekend. So maybe we'll have a cocktail. Who knows? We all deserve one. But let's look at some more numbers because this is where it gets really crazy. Let's say half goes in. Price would be $380,000 a year from now for Bitcoin. If we say 3/4 comes in, the price would be $535,000 a Bitcoin. And if we say the same amount comes in every single day for the next 252 days, we get to 691,000. Yes, I know it's absolutely crazy. It's crazy, but it gets worse because that little multiplier you see there, 73.6, that's going to go a lot higher after the halving. Theoretically, I said, and I had my 59 multiplier, it'll go to 120-ish after the halving, okay? Because the less supply, same amount of money, chasing less assets, things are going to get exponential. So I know it sounds incredible. I know it sounds like hopium, but so far, these things have been crazy. But let's look at some more data points too. Let's look at a third price prediction model. Why not? Because I was in a very hyper mood this morning. And so literally, if we continue to believe that Bitcoin will soar even more after halving, yes, it will, because this is the history of all the old epochs of Bitcoin and what happens in the year after halving in different colored lines. And again, it's a bit of an eye chart. but I decided to break it into a table so you can all see. This is the table, okay? This is what happened in history. In the first epoch, 7,745% gains the year after the halving. I'm going to ignore that. We're going to cast that aside because, the price of Bitcoin is $10 then, so it doesn't matter. But if you take the second halving at 403%, third halving 366%. Remember, the third halving was manipulated too, so we could actually nearly ignore that. But just assuming we get to just 350% in the first year after the halving, just 350%, this would take us to 315,000 by April 2025. Again, sounds a bit nutty, but let's see how this all stacks up. Let's compare my year from now with the DotKrueger multiplier to the historic model and assuming just 350% gains. Where are we on that pricing continuum? And the answer is the target is right there. It's somewhere between the 25% a day and 50% a day, which would take us to $315,000, somewhere between $225K and $380K. And again, is this crazy? Absolutely. It's insane. But so is crypto. And that's why we do this. It can change people's lives. All right? I'm still pounding my table, looking at the history, looking at the models. We have never gone into such a diminishing supply cycle in the history of Bitcoin, nor have we ever had so much money going into it. Put those things together, you get explosions. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Steve Shaw. So let's look at more stuff as well. Investors are putting nearly $25 billion every 5 days into money markets. $25 billion. This is a steady bid for US Treasury bills, but not nearly enough to meet all of the Treasury funding requirements. Wait till they start buying Bitcoin. This is from, I think, Joe Consorti. But the point of this is there's over $6 trillion in cash on the sidelines. That's a melting ice cube. Rates are going to be cut this year, and more money will be printed. Wait till this $25 billion that goes into money markets starts finding its way to Bitcoin. Again, additional money. And as I mentioned before, Bitcoin is flying off the shelves. It's from Bitcoin Magazine. You can see their balances like almost at an all-time low. Bitcoin has been taken off exchanges in record numbers ahead of the halving. Okay? See the perfect storm building up here? If you're not excited, you shouldn't be looking at Bitcoin videos. But I'm very excited. Now, again, from Uncle Fred, Goodfella24, thank you so much. Bitcoin ETFs should have $1 trillion in them, not 15 billion. 15 billion is the number. We're going to break down all the ETF numbers as well. Think about it. The US bond market, 51 trillion. Chinese bond market, 21 trillion. Japanese bond market, 13 trillion. French bond market, $4 trillion. Add them all up. That's a lot of trillions. Okay? And US stock market, 50 trillion. In no small part due to money printing. And the Bitcoin ETF is the only hedge against money printing. It's the digital gold, gold 2.0, next generation gold, whatever you want to talk to it about. But basically he says traditional gold is 15 trillion, and this is the size that Bitcoin should be. So people are off, not only by one order of magnitude, but two. He believes this thing is going to 100x, which is insane. Anyway, are your minds melting yet? Because mine certainly does, and I don't believe it. And then I do the math, and then I say, wow, it is real. Anyway, more. This is from Joe Burnett. Shout out to Joe. We're not even in a no ZERP environment. There's no M2 growth yet. Liquidity is growing a little bit in different nations around the world. And Bitcoin's already at an all-time high, okay? $70,000 Bitcoin 40 days before the halving, before the rates get cut, and before M2 starts growing like crazy. And 800 trillion of fiat assets are about to get an allocation to Bitcoin, which is only about 1.3 trillion today. And much of that 1.3 trillion is not for sale. That's why we have the multiplier of now 73.6, which is going to go to 140 or 120 or something like that. Imagine a tiny sliver of this 800 trillion goes into Bitcoin, goes bonkers. And not many are selling. Only the foolish people are selling at this stage. In addition, Tim Draper, top Silicon Valley VC, big Bitcoin bull, smart guy, been around a long time. He believes that El Salvador could eventually become one of the wealthiest countries in the world, thanks to the investment in Bitcoin. He also made statements in the recent episode of Web3 Deep Dive with Rachel Wolfson. I have not heard it yet. I just saw this tweet, but it might be worth checking that as well. And there's more. Game theory, touched on it yesterday. El Salvador's Bitcoin position is up 60%, and it's now $200 million. The GDP of El Salvador is only 30 billion. I know 30 billion sounds like a lot, but for a country, it's not that much. It's only growing at 2%. But a 10x in Bitcoin would add 7% to the GDP growth. The point of this is emerging economies are going to see what's going on and say, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, what are we doing? We need to get some of this Bitcoin action on our government balance sheet, or whatever you want to call it. Once these central banks stop buying the ridiculous old manipulated gold and start buying digital gold, it's game over. Still have a long way to go. Other breaking news too. Larry Fink was on the TV, the Finkster, and he's literally on Fox arguing with the hosts about why Bitcoin is the modern day digital gold and how it protects from inflation and removes counterparty risk associated with governments. Their narrative is changing. US government, the Fed, works for this guy. And he's telling you, be careful of the Fed. I mean, this is like the number one advertising campaign Bitcoin could ever dream of. Thank you, Larry. Well done. And there's more. Bitcoin therapist, similar to what Joe said before, is 900 trillion of wealth. There's only 1 trillion in Bitcoin. A flood of money is coming to Bitcoin. Don't overthink it, ladies and gentlemen. It's not hard. Bitcoin is hard. But understanding it shouldn't be hard anymore. So hope you all get it. And the FUD is still out there. Let's look at some of the ETF numbers and then finish with one little cool chart too. This is the day 40 raw numbers. Again, it's a very, very huge spreadsheet right now. So I'm just looking at the last piece of window. And you can see a little bit of orange from Grayscale. Big day for... bigger day for BlackRock than the day before, a shorter day for Fidelity. Again, these things, Fidelity and BlackRock, kind of run counter to each other, so you never know what's going to happen. Let's look at what this looks like visually. Green is Grayscale at the bottom. The outflow is still there. You can see Fidelity is in... Hang on. Fidelity is in blue. They were down. BlackRock were up for the day. Again, they run counter to each other. I don't know why. It would nearly be fun trying to do a little ARB model, assuming what these two different assets are doing on the day, looking at volumes. But anyway, it's a separate issue. Let's look at absorption too. Despite the crazy Grayscale dumpage that's been going on, sometimes $300 million a day, it doesn't matter. The new ETFs, the 9 new ETFs, are sucking it all in and a lot more as well at the same time. And this is kind of standing. And the interesting thing about this is Grayscale dumpage from DCG and FTX and everything else, that will be ending soon. There's people trapped in there with capital gains. They're all in capital gains right now, unless they bought at a very huge premium. But they can't incur taxes by selling, so it's worth paying the 1.5% fee rather than incurring a big hit on taxes while letting it ride to the top of the market. So that's what's happening. Grayscale will stop selling soon. That's pretty clear. Now, we did have, considering it's day 40, I thought this was kind of ironic. We had the 20th best money flow day from 40 days. Not bad. But you can see it's a bit of a down dip. And I've noticed as well, Monday through Thursday can be very active. And then Friday is kind of a soft day. Total money flow still up and to the right. That's the red line you have to focus on there. And the bar blue shows you the net positive in to these little ETFs, which are now monstrous. There was now $20.1 billion of inflows into these 9 new ETFs. Not only have they absorbed $10.5 billion from Grayscale, but also sucked in an additional 9.6. And again, I will stress, remember, the investors that were in GBTC, they're not traditional retail investors hodling Bitcoin. They were speculators, okay? So again, once this stuff is gone, we're going to see crazy explosions in prices upwards. Pretty sure of that. In addition, we now have 405,000 Bitcoin in the new ETFs. 405,000 Bitcoin in 40 days. Okay? That's over 10,000 Bitcoin a day being sucked into these 9 new ETFs. 10,000 when only 900 are being made by miners, and miners are only selling about 80% of what they make. Okay, again, more perfect storm. Put it all together in your little pie and you'll get a big explosion. And a new visual, this is the amount of Bitcoin that left the system yesterday. Is 3,266. Not the biggest day ever. Remember, this number leaving the system will get smaller as the price goes up because it takes more dollars to move it. When the ETFs began, it was around 40K. Now it's 70,000 in 40 days. Okay. Anyway, chart time. One little chart today. We are now at level 6 on the ATR model, which is the top level. Next level is full-on price discovery. We had 2 new all-time highs in the last 10 days. And here we still have a buy signal and the trend is very much up and to the right. So I do expect, and this model is right 86% of the time for Bitcoin on the, is it 12-hour, the daily? I can't remember, 12-hour chart. Daily is pretty much similar too. It's going to be a good weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your seatbelts on. One final piece of history too, because it's important in money to be a student of history. Sometimes the past doesn't tell you what's going to happen, but often it rhymes. This is, again, from Uncle Fred. This is Cosmo de Medici. Shout out to Sanjay as well for sharing. When he died, he had 600,000 gold florins, and he was the richest man on planet Earth. And I don't remember the day in which he died, so please Google that for me and drop it in a comment below. I forgot to research that. But a gold florin weighed 3 grams, and he had 600,000 of them. That's about 1,800 kilograms of gold, or 63,000 ounces. We know the price of gold is about $2,000 an ounce. So you can do the math. That's about $126 million worth of assets. And it's funny because it hasn't gone up much over the last, 200 years. But that's equivalent to about 1,800 Bitcoin. And there's less than 1,000 people on this planet that have more than 1,800 Bitcoin. Less than 1,000 people. So these people with over 1,800 Bitcoin are the Medicis of this new world. And people like Michael Saylor is one of them. So shout out to history. Shout out to the future. Shout out to El Salvador. Good times ahead. Don't forget to subscribe if you want your Bitcoin only content every single day. It's just a special time to be focusing on Bitcoin. It is a special time. And remember, a rising tide floats all boats, and it's going to suck all the other crypto stuff into it. But right now, it's Bitcoin's time in the sun. Thank you all for coming, everybody. Hope you like the show. Smash the like on the way out because people need to hear this. There's a lot of people not on the train yet. A lot. They're coming, but not fast enough because, again, if history repeats, we're easily at 100K by the halving in 40 days. If the money flow continues. And then after that, that's when the craziness really happens. And you think you saw crazy already? Nope, a lot more. Anyway, thank you as well. Thank you T&D Tesla for coming. Everybody out there. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Mopbots. And the whole gang is here. Love it. 6,000 people watching live on a Saturday. New record. Thank you, everybody. See you later.